my fellow Americans. If you think you know politics, think again. I'm Michael Cohen, and every week on When You Know, we're pulling back the curtain on power, politics, media, and the people making headlines. On my new WABC radio show, you'll hear conversations from names that you know. People like Jerry Falwell Jr., Anthony Scaramucci, Alan Dershowitz, and many, many more. Maybe, just maybe, we'll even hear from the president. No scripts, no spin, just real conversations with people who were in the room where it happened. And trust me, we've got some very big surprises coming. Look, I've spent years at the center of politics, controversy, and power. I know the players, I know the stories, and now I'm bringing you inside. When You Know, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WABC Radio, and When You Know Unleashed, wherever you get your podcasts. Because with me, you never know who's going to show up.
Welcome to a new era of baseball's great spectacle, the T-Mobile Home Run Derby, live on Netflix. The biggest sluggers in baseball put their talents to the test on All-Star Weekend. Raw power meets star power. Big swagger meets bigger slams. And you don't swing to make contact. You swing to make history. Watch the T-Mobile Home Run Derby live on Netflix this Monday, July 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
The foreign policy advisor for Israeli Prime Minister, my friend Bibi Netanyahu. He's in the room with Bibi all day, every day. So he knows exactly what's going on, even during those Bibi Trump phone calls. So with that said, let me welcome him in, making his debut on Sid and Friends in the Morning from Israel, Dr. Ophir Falk. Dr. Falk, good morning. Or in your case, good afternoon. Hey. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Sid. Thanks for having me.
It is great to have you, and so much to discuss. I guess we'll start with Iran. You know, I was just in Israel a couple of weeks ago. I was there speaking, Alex Trayman, JNS.org. In fact, I saw Bibi speak on that Sunday night. I was sitting right there in the front row. And I think that Israel and me, we want the same thing, which is while we talk about the economics of the war and the nuclear stuff, we want to make sure, basically, that Iran can't continue to hurt America and Israel, people in the Middle East. That's the bottom line, right? So I think we all want to see some type of reason to believe that Iran will not be able to do that in the future. Is that fair to say, Dr. Falk?
Right. So the bottom line is that Iran cannot have nuclear bombs. That's the bottom line. The president's been very clear on that. The prime minister's been very clear on that. And deal or no deal, they will not have any atomic bombs. Iran's weaker than it's ever been before because, along with the United States, Israel has hit them very hard. They've been calling death to America and death to Israel for 47 years, and we're putting an end to that today.
They did that just yesterday. Again, they chanted the same thing. So is it fair to say then, based on what you just said, that you and Bibi, you're happy with where we are in this war?
Well, we have a fantastic relationship, obviously, with the United States. Israel and the United States have a fantastic relationship. We are America's model ally, and obviously the United States is Israel's indispensable ally. Never has there been such cooperation and coordination between a prime minister and a president, and between our armed forces, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, and the American military forces in this war, in Rising Lion and in Epic Fury. We've hit Iran like they've never been hit before. They're weaker than ever. We've taken out 20 of their top nuclear scientists. We've taken out Tier 1 of their leadership, Tier 2 of their leadership, and now we're basically dealing with the D-League. Now, if the president can do a deal and prevent them from having a nuclear bomb, great. But as the president said and as the prime minister has said, deal or no deal, Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, and they can no longer be the bullies of this neighborhood.
You know, you just talked about the relationship between Israel and America, and Bibi and Trump specifically. Yet, you know, the media here in the United States would lead you to believe the last couple of weeks that relationship is very strained, to say the least, that Trump, he's out there and he says things about Bibi. They're not all that nice. And that those two guys aren't necessarily best friends these days. Now, again, Dr. Falk, you are in those rooms. You're in the room with Bibi just about every time he speaks to President Trump. Is there any truth to the American media stance that Trump and Bibi's relationship is at the very least strained?
Well, I think it was the president said that the relationship has never been better. They've met 7 times. The Prime Minister and the President have met 7 times since President Trump was reelected. They talk during the war. They talked almost every day, and they talk very frequently. And they're set to meet soon. They're going to set a date, and they're going to meet soon. There's never been better partners in war, and never been better partners in peace. They've forged 4 peace agreements together, the Abraham Accords, and those peace agreements were done. Peace through strength, and that's exactly what we're going to continue to do. We have, as the Prime Minister said, they're 99% agree on everything, or they agree on 99% of the items. But just like in families, sometimes you don't agree on some things, but they always work it out. They work it out, and the President has a great way of expressing himself, of course, and the Prime Minister also expresses himself freely to the President.
Look, I love both guys. I've got relationships with both guys. You know, Trump has been really good to me, and I see Bibi every time I go to Israel. Some function, whether it's Yom Ha'atzmaut, you know, at a winery, or Yom HaZikaron at Mount Herzl, or again last week at JNS. So I love both guys, and they're both great, but 99% may be a high number, Dr. Falk, because just look at the last couple of days with Turkey. I mean, you got President Trump saying nice things about Erdogan. I actually played Trump saying nice things, and then Bibi on Fox News 2 days ago saying he's a terrible guy, and the fear that we may end up selling F-35 jets to Turkey. So I know that you want it to go well with Trump. So do I. I want America and Israel to be best friends. But this Turkey deal the last couple of days didn't seem to make you guys very happy.
Right. So first of all, we've never had a better friend in the White House than President Trump. As for Turkey, you know, they harbor Hamas. They threaten Israel daily. Erdogan calls Jerusalem his city. His foreign minister the other day said the Jews don't have a place in humanity. Turkey threatens Greece, which is a NATO nation. You know, they occupy half of Cyprus, which is an EU country. And, you know, they did absolutely zero in the war against Iran. So these guys should not have F-35s. That's what our position is. And again, the President and the Prime Minister agree, I would say, on 99% of the issues. And there are things that they don't agree completely upon, and they talk about it.
This is Dr. Ophir Falk, happens to be Bibi Netanyahu's foreign policy advisor. Where are we, Dr. Falk, in this peace deal with Lebanon? You know, much like the ceasefire between America and Iran, this was kind of a strange ceasefire because it included firing at each other almost every day. And you had a very similar situation with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Where are you actually in that peace deal with the Lebanese?
Well, actually, we struck an historic agreement with Lebanon, fostered by the United States in D.C. Secretary Rubio led that, and we set a trilateral framework for peace between Israel and Lebanon. It's an historic agreement because it's the first time in 45 years that Lebanon actually recognizes the sovereignty of Israel. That's a big deal. Now, we know we don't have a war with Lebanon. We are fighting Hezbollah that's been holding Lebanon hostage for 45 years. Now, how is this deal made possible? We've degraded Hezbollah significantly. They're on their knees. They had 150,000 missiles aimed at us, at our civilians, at our city centers. We've knocked that down to a handful, maybe 8,000 missiles. We still have to take that out. We've taken out 8,000 Hezbollah terrorists since the beginning of this war. And that has enabled the Lebanese government to step up to the plate. If there's one lesson that we've learned from October 7th atrocities, where the Hamas ran into Israel, invaded Israel, and butchered 1,200 innocent people, if we've learned one thing from that is that we cannot allow genocidal terrorist organizations or regimes anywhere near our border. Not in the south with Hamas, and not in the north with Hezbollah. The main objective of the agreement, all right, the main objective of the agreement is to demilitarize southern Lebanon, to disarm Hezbollah, and that there will be no threat posed to Israel. If we have all that, we have a real chance for peace, an historic peace that will build upon the 4 Abraham Accord agreements that President Trump led.
So even though you've got a peace plan with Lebanon, if Hezbollah decides to fire on you guys, even though they're in Lebanon, you guys are going to fire back, yes? No,
absolutely, of course. Absolutely. Security for us is number one, and And Lebanon understands this as well. Everybody understands that. Lebanon understands that. Of course, the president understands that. If Hezbollah hits us, we're going to hit them much, much harder, for sure.
You know, I saw some frustration with the prime minister a couple of weeks ago when he was speaking on that Sunday night, and I said the same thing here. You know, President Trump, I believe in his heart he does love Israel, loves Bibi. He is, as you said, there's been no president, not even Truman, who's come close to doing for Israel what President Trump has done. There's no question about that, okay? But sometimes when Trump gets aggravated with Bibi, I think people need to remind President Trump that when rockets start flying in Iran or in Beirut, guess who gets hit next? Not Cincinnati, Dr. Falk. Not Brooklyn. Not Sacramento. You poor guys in Tel Aviv, where I just was 2 weeks ago. You are the guys who take the brunt of the fire when, in fact, somebody messes with one of these folks. That puts Bibi and Israel in a much different situation than Trump and the United States. Is that not fair to say?
Well, that's true. That the threat is at our doorstep. But surely the Iranian threat, the nuclear threat, is also a threat to America. They say death to America every day for the past 47 years. They're building, or they were building, ballistic missiles that could eventually reach every city in America. So the threat to America is also real. But of course, the threat to us is much bigger. It's an existential threat that we, thank God, removed for the time being. But we have to be very vigilant. We got to make sure that they don't regroup. And we have to make sure that they don't have any nuclear bombs. Deal or no deal, they cannot have nuclear weapons.
How disappointing is it for you, Dr. Ophir Falk, that here in America, we have this lady, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I used to be friends with her. Now I can't stand her. She was a congressperson. I think you know who she is. And she was on The View, this horrible TV show in America yesterday, going on and on about how Israel is genocidal and all the big donors in America have put Israel first. It's not about America first anymore. It's Israel first, and Israel's killing babies. All that nonsense, which is very widespread in America these days. It's continuing to grow because of the Democrat Party. How do you guys, you and Bibi, feel in Israel when you hear that nonsense?
Well, I think you're right. It is absolutely nonsense. But those who demonize Israel don't stop with Israel. They end up demonizing America too. And I think that's what we're seeing. People that have a problem with Israel, and people who have a problem with the Jews, they usually have a problem with America. We see that throughout the whole, everywhere you look at that. So it's not really a problem only with Israel. It's a problem with America.
You're right about that. Last one. I love Bibi. I want him to win every election, and I love Sarah too. I spent many times with good times with Sarah and the Falks. So the question is very simple. Election coming up, I guess, October. I saw something this morning that some other guy, not worth mentioning, may have edged ahead of Bibi here in the last couple of days in the polls. How confident are you guys? Because, Mark Levin made a speech in Israel, and he said, I want Bibi to win. And Bibi said moments after him, I plan on being here for a long time. How confident are you guys that Bibi will, in fact, win the next election?
Well, hey, the Prime Minister is a fighter, and I would never bet against Netanyahu. That's all I can say.
That's a great answer. Dr. Falk, it's really, really special and great to talk to you. You know how much I love you guys and respect you guys. So continued success there in that beautiful holy land of Israel. And next time I get back, we'll probably be in April. I look forward to seeing you in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sis. Thank you for everything.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you. There he is. What a great guy. Senior Policy Advisor for Bibi Netanyahu, Dr. Ophir Falk, making his debut right here on Sid and Friends in the Morning. Thanks to David Menzer.